Hi, you're listening to One Time You Told Me. I'm your host, Randy Mays, and I'm here with my co-host, Jen. We're in our multi-dollar studio putting the finishing touches on today's show, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Okay, here we are. Happy November.
Yeah, happy November.
Yeah.
Did you guys get any trick-or-treaters last night? Halloween?
You know, we did. It was a little weird because last, 5 or 6 years, there's hardly been anybody coming to the door.
Mm-hmm.
And, overall, we probably got the same number. They just all came at once.
Really?
In the first half an hour or so, we got half a dozen doorbell rings.
Yeah.
3 or 4 each time.
Everybody had to go out before it went dark, huh?
Well, it was dark.
Oh, really?
It was a little bit of a late start. Maybe a little bit of twilight left, but the first doorbell rang. But yeah, we did pretty good. We still wound up with a ton of candy left over. But
good. Nothing like the staggering hours of trick-or-treating like from my childhood.
No. And that's the thing. Once it died off, it was dead. I actually went up going to the store last night around 8:30 or so, and it was nobody out there.
Wow.
Nobody out there at all. So, except some guy coming up the hill who was rather impatient with me doing the speed limit. Oh my God.
Yeah, he had a party to get to. Gosh, Dad. Or he was running from the killer in the movie. One of the two. Something
like that. But, Halloween.
Uh-huh.
There's a story involving Halloween that isn't not quite a fire department story.
Nope, but it is one of my favorites.
Yeah, you were there.
I know.
You were in the story, sort of.
I think I remember it, honestly, a little better than everyone. Like, from the little kid perspective.
From little
True
kid perspective.
or not.
Yeah.
Fact-wise. But, like, the little kid perspective of it was, like, Mom doesn't remember.
No, she doesn't. That one it surprises me, although I'm a little worried that she's just blocking it.
I mean, maybe.
And when it's really bad for me, it'll all come out.
I mean, maybe. She was home with, like, babies, or, like, young children.
She was not happy with me that night. She was not happy.
Should we get into why?
Well, we should, yeah. So for those who haven't figured it out or don't know yet, I'm a geek, a techno geek.
Yep. In
a variety of ways, and the industry that I work in is an
engineer is the great term.
Yeah, but beyond that, the industry I work in is the automation industry, and I deal with devices called process logic controllers, or PLCs, and they do automation things. I can make them do things. And when I really got into Halloween, I used to deploy that a lot. I don't do it anymore. I got to realizing that,
He used to have some great decorations, guys.
Well, but spending 12 hours to present something that half a dozen people are going to see over a 2-hour span just wasn't heading up anymore.
Sure, but it was real cool when it did.
Yeah, and when we had all the little kids, when we had the one little boy who
one of the neighbors was terrified,
but he had to come to the door every time.
He was shaking every time at the beginning of the walkway.
And his dad told me once that was his favorite part of the night.
I love it. But so, like, to put into perspective, one year there was like a pumpkin with a smoke machine and a purple light that like had purple fire, it looked like.
He asked me how I got the pumpkin to breathe purple fire.
Yep. And then like the scary stuff was like you had a fireman's outfit.
Bunker gear. Yep.
Bunker gear. And then you put like a skeleton in it.
Yep.
And the skeleton, like the skull had red glowing eyes.
And he was holding an axe sitting at the front door.
Terrifying. Okay. And I definitely know how terrifying it was because he stored that in the garage where we have a fridge that we used to have to go get milk from. And us little kids used to scream having to go get milk because we didn't want to turn on the light in the garage. And all you could see was the beady red eyes around the corner until we begged you to move it.
Yeah, I probably should have taken it more seriously than I did at the time, but I thought, oh, come on, guys.
But it worked as a Halloween prop. That's what I'm trying to frame, is it was successfully scary.
Yep, I leveraged the fire department bunker gear and uniforms for Halloween several times, but
yeah.
So specifically, one year I got my hands on a smoke machine,
mm-hmm.
and I took a PLC. process logic controller and did some programming in it and set it up so that it would control the smoke machine.
Okay.
And then along with that, if anybody remembers way back to Windows 3.1,
Good luck.
I think 95 did it as well, but you had a thunder crash as one of the sound effects.
Yeah, like reminiscent of like the grocery store thunderclap.
Yeah, right. When they go to water the food.
Yeah.
And I had that on a a laptop with a mouse modified so that I could control the mouse.
Okay.
And click on that sound. And I had another. I had a strobe light plugged into an outlet that was also being controlled by the PLC. So I'd hit the strobe, and about a second and a half later, I'd hit the clap of thunder. Because there's always
thunder and lightning.
There's always that delay, right?
Yeah.
So I'd have the flash and then the clap of thunder, and made it close enough to be, oh my God, it's close. And then I had the smoke machine on just a timed cycle.
I also want to include that we've got tons of trees in our front yard, so that it added to the elements.
Yes. And so, not really having played much with the smoke machine before, and not realizing that the relatively cold weather with no wind whatsoever, no breeze, nothing.
No, it was perfectly clear, like dull night. Nothing was moving. No wind.
The smoke wouldn't dissipate.
No. We went out trick-or-treating. This is the part I remember.
Yeah. So I had the thing set to run smoke for, I think it was between 5 and 10 seconds every 30 seconds.
Which is longer than you'd think.
Well, yes. Not anymore, but yes, at the time. And I turned it on just as we left.
Yep. And we were little kids, so we would hit every single door. We were not skipping any house, whether the lights were on or not. We hit everything. Yeah, and
what I don't remember is we must have hit the upper neighborhood first.
No, so we went up into the lower half of the neighborhood, but we did one side of it.
Okay.
And then because it's essentially two big loop-de-loops.
Right.
So we did one side of one loop, went up the hill, did that full loop, both sides.
Right, but what I don't remember is why we didn't notice the smoke when we were in the lower neighborhood. It wasn't until we were coming back down to the lower neighborhood.
Because it hadn't built up enough yet.
I suppose. Yeah,
it was in the time. So it was starting to build, but not enough to really it was just kind of eerie, not enough to be oh, we're going to get in trouble. Then we go up the upper loop, in which you can't see the lower part of the neighborhood from there. I
think what happened was there was a breeze and it died down. Because basically, so to the piece to add is that the neighborhood is a big loop, if you will, that's broken in half. It's not.
It kind of looks like an uppercase G.
Yeah, exactly. And there's an upper half of the neighborhood which is probably 100 feet higher in elevation than the bottom half of the neighborhood where we live.
Yeah.
And so we are up in the upper half of the neighborhood now, and we finish up there. We're walking back. Yeah, we're walking back down the hill, and as we round the corner to come down the hill, the bottom half of the neighborhood was now below a lake of white smoke.
Yeah, it was this lake. You could barely see the tops of the rooftops of some of the houses, and we were not the only house decorated. Other houses had lights on them and stuff like that, and you couldn't really see them at all.
No, it was just this white
lake cloud. Of just silky smooth looking too.
That's when I realized it kind of screwed up.
Well, yeah, because we couldn't. So we rounded the corner, and what I remember is rounding and stepping down into the lake, and seeing all of the lights that were there starting to kind of glow through it, but very, very hazily. Rounding the corner and seeing at the end flashing cop lights.
Yeah, that was the piece I was going to get to. So
we were in trouble.
Well, when we were coming down the hill and even rounding the corner, I was a little worried about what neighbors were going to think and whether or not someone was going to call the fire department. Well, they didn't call the fire department per se. They called 911.
Yeah.
Apparently several people did, because some of them thought that somebody's house was on fire. Where else would all this smoke be coming from?
Yeah.
Forgetting the fact that, come on, folks, it's Halloween.
And it's not going to be white smoke if something's burning. But
a lot of people don't know that.
Besides the point.
I can't tell you the number of times that in the cold mornings in the winter, the steam from the ventilation systems in all the buildings generates fire alarm calls. Or people calling in saying that building's on fire, there's a bunch of smoke pouring out of it, and that's steam.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we come around the corner, and we'd been pointed that direction for just a few minutes, and a car comes around off the main street into the neighborhood, and its blue lights come on.
And I don't know how to describe it other than it had a fun house effect. Like all the smoke, it made the lights glow.
Oh yeah, it was
so differently than just ambient air.
You could still tell what it was.
Yeah, but it was like, it was like a glow stick, but you were inside of it. It was so fun. It was like, oh, we were in trouble, but it was also like, oh wait, this looks really cool.
So as we're walking up now, keep in mind I'm fully bunkered up.
Yeah,
I didn't have an air pack on, but I was
warm.
That was my costume. That was my costume for a couple of years in a row. That was my costume. And so as we're walking up towards the house, because we're a couple of driveways in, we're pretty close to the main drag where the police pulled in from, and it was one police officer, and he's parked in front of our house because he's figured out where the smoke was coming from. And he knew what it was. And that's when I say it's not really a fire department story, I'm pretty sure the fire department got called, but the police probably turned him around once he figured out what was going on.
Yeah, probably.
No reason to bring a fire crew up to investigate
not
something
when there's real things happening on Halloween.
Right. So as we get a little bit closer, I decide I better go up and talk to this officer. And he's still sitting in his car, and I walk up and I said, "So you guys are up here because of this, huh?" And he goes, "Yeah. Is this you?" I said, "Yeah. I got a little carried away and didn't realize just how much smoke it was going to make." And he goes, "Yeah, I can see that. You're turning it off, right?" I said, "Oh yeah. Yes, I'll turn it off right now." And then so I went and turned it off, and then came back and told him what I had done and how I set it up, and he actually thought it was really cool.
I'm sure he
Except for
did.
the fact that people were calling 911 looking for a house fire.
I was going to say, so I'm sure he did find it really cool, but the very last thing I remember, and this could just be my little kid imagination, or him trying to be like a cool dude on Halloween, I don't know, but I vividly remember, I have this memory of him turning, like as he's going to walk away, turning back and like finger wagging at you and being like, "And don't have us come out here again."
Yeah, I remember that as well, but I remember that as him playing with me. Him just joking around with.
I'm sure it did not read that way when I was young.
Well, no, when you were your age, I'm sure it didn't. But with me, it was like, "Okay, now don't do it again," and I'm like, "Oh,
yeah." No, that I took that as like a serious. Oh, we actually almost got in trouble. So. But yeah, that was one of my favorite Halloweens because I knew our decorations were going to be the talk of the school the next day, and they were. Because, I mean, the whole neighborhood was just a lake. Just a lake of white. And we had like some pretty good candy haul that year too, because we went to every house. Mm-hmm. It was pretty good.
I think your mother made you give most of that to the dentist, but
I mean, my siblings were young enough that we did throw it all in one giant bucket, and then the bucket got stuck on top of the fridge. So
I could reach it.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. I unfortunately don't know what happened to most of my childhood Halloween candy, but it's probably for the better.
Yeah.
To be honest. So.
Yeah, that was one of the last years that I think that that was the first year before I started getting the 5 or 6 shifts in a row, years in a row of getting the holiday shift. Yeah. So that was the last time I really did Halloween big.
Yeah, because I remember you would set stuff up for us to like
turn on.
Yeah, for us to essentially like plug in and Mom to be able to answer the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that you started getting called Halloween, and then every holiday, if I got Halloween,
you got Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve and New Year's Day.
Yep, you got all of them.
Yep.
Which, I mean, sucked because you weren't with us as a family, but also I always like saw it as like, well, somebody has to, so.
I was, it was Christmas Eve, so I'd come home at 5:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I kind of rather would do that than Christmas Day, because then I'd have to leave.
Yeah.
Because we'd go up to my parents on Christmas Day every year, and
I
didn't want to leave that early.
Yeah. No, that was always a really good time.
So I didn't get to spend time with your mom's grandparents.
Right. Somebody had to do it, there was a peace of mind, and I don't know if I've told you this throughout my life, but there was a peace of mind knowing that you were out there taking care of people.
No, I didn't know that.
Knowing that our part of our community was if the worst of the worst had to happen, and on a holiday, my dad, who I knew was a great comfort, was going to be there, I was okay.
Oh. Cool. That's not sure how to respond to that. I'm humbled.
Moment.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So that doesn't quite qualify as a fire department story, though. So
no, but I don't know that all of our stories will.
True enough.
As we get into, it's a big chunk of your life. Don't get me wrong, but it kind of leads into other elements too. So
yeah, there's other things we haven't talked about yet. Car safe kids hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, big car safety.
Yeah, well, child passenger safety specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've definitely, I've got some memories there. I really helped on a few of those.
Yeah.
That was a lifetime and a half ago.
The fireboat Duwamish.
Yeah, that.
I don't remember what you remember of that. And it wasn't a city-operated fireboat, folks. It was a private. Well, it wasn't privately owned. It was owned by an organization that I became a member of.
Right.
I became an assistant pilot. I wound up as vice president of the organization, then wound up having to leave because some of the other people were doing some really stupid things.
And no, you did not mishear that. It was a fireboat.
Yeah, the fireboat Duwamish, it's still around. It's down in at the museum. I think the Museum of History owns it now. It's the old Naval Center at Lake Union, South Lake Union. The fireboat Duwamish is down there. It is the oldest still operational. I say that, kind of. Okay, I guess it's still operational, sort of.
Big old air quotes.
Yeah, it's the oldest operating fireboat in the world.
Wow.
It was launched in 1909.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've actually got a picture of it being launched at the Rainier Beach shipyard. And literally, it's coming off of planks on a gravel beach, hitting the water in 1909.
Wow,
it's a really cool photograph.
But
I was involved in that I was involved for that for a long time. And
yep.
There's one or two interesting stories there. At the time, it was the most powerful fireboat in the world as far as water delivery. It was 22,800 gallons of water per minute. That was putting up 1.6 tons of water per second.
Wow.
Under full bore.
Did I imagine, or was there a laser show against the water ones?
Yes, we did some testing with Laser Fantasy and over in Paulsbo. We'd put up a water curtain that they put a laser show on.
Yeah,
and
I do remember that.
What killed that was some jerk off in a pleasure boat wouldn't stay out of our water streams, and we swamped his boat.
Oh, I kind of think I remember that part,
too. The cops had to go in and rescue him. We had to shut down in the middle of the laser show, so we had to shut the water down. The cops had to go rescue this guy because his boat was now up to the edge of the boat. He was sinking because he thought it would be cool to go hang out in our water stream, not realizing.
Was the laser green?
Yes.
Why is that the part that I remember? Because little kid memory.
Green is one of the most reflective colors of laser. It's in a wavelength that is easy to see no matter what it's on.
I feel like there was a Michael Jackson song or something playing.
A couple of them.
Green laser.
Yep.
And I remember it being stopped, and then mom, because we were little kids, being like, "Let's go find your dad and let's tell him we're leaving," because
you couldn't find me. I was on the boat. I was on the Duwamish.
I think it's let's go find the car or something.
It maybe so, because you were up in it was up in Paulsbo and you were there with your Grandma Carol.
Then it was let's go find who we're with, because mom was very much this is ending and we are not staying.
Yeah.
And that would make sense. No little kids watching people drown. That's not fun.
Well, and it wasn't that. The guy was never really in that great of trouble. He was in a lot more trouble with the cops than he was with us.
Well, I'm sure, because there's tons of firemen.
Well, he was defying their order. There was Coast Guard orders to stay a certain distance away from the boat, et cetera, and he was ignoring all of it. And they came out there several times warning him, get out of there, and he wouldn't leave.
There's enough people that know the safety precautions that he wasn't actually in danger at any point. They were going to keep him safe.
I mean, they made us
he was ignoring them.
Right. They made us shut down so they could go in there and get him without getting swamped themselves.
Exactly.
We were furious
I remember
at the guy.
that.
Yeah, that was... And it was too bad because it had a lot of potential. The laser show developed a 3D image because the water flow was thick.
Yeah.
So and it wasn't just this consistent sheet of water. It would come down in I don't know, just like water flow does. So as the laser hit different spots of it, and these spots would move as the water's falling. It would go deeper in, and so it had kind of a 3D effect.
Yeah.
And it was really cool.
I remember I want to say it was like the Jackson 5 song, like ABC, and like a tricycle.
There could have been.
And like an animation or like a motorcycle or something like coming at you and being like, wait, whoa.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was a cool event. But that was my my tenure on the fireboat Duwamish.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's we had a lot of good plans for it and wanted to get it restored. This was way before 2009 when it turned 100 years old. A few years before anyway, and we wanted to get it restored for that, but it couldn't do it.
It's next year. It's going to be 115 years old.
Yep,
that's old.
Yes, it
for
is.
A boat.
Yes, and it's got a real interesting. And I encourage you to go out and do some searching for fireboat Duwamish. There's some interesting history there.
Yeah.
The progression of the boat. It's not the way it is now is not how it was built.
No, I'm sure.
It had been retrofitted several times, but...
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be. They didn't have a lot of things in 2009.
Yeah.
That we had.
Yeah. Although when it was built, it wasn't nearly as powerful as it was when we had it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time it was built, it was the most powerful fireboat on the planet.
That's amazing.
And then in 1945, after World War II, the Coast Guard commandeered it in World War II.
Okay.
And used it as a patrol boat in the Puget Sound.
Makes sense.
And when they gave it back to the city of Seattle,
I always forget that we had to be patrolled in World War II.
Yeah.
Because we're a coast.
Yeah.
Ugh,
the Navy gave the city of Seattle, actually the Coast Guard did because it was a Coast Guard boat, the city of Seattle a destroyer escort tug. And to take the power plants out of it and put it into the Duwamish, to retrofit the Duwamish. And that was the last time it was retrofitted.
Oh, so
it was my 45, 46.
Powerful tugboat, powerful.
Well, the engines, and it was diesel electric. So It had diesel engines running electric generators, and electric motors running the pumps and the shafts.
Okay.
And all of that hardware came from this destroyer escort tug, as I understand it. And so in Seattle, once they got it back from the Coast Guard, I said, maybe it was from the Coast Guard. They retrofitted it, and it came out as 22,800 gallons per minute, which I did the calculation once again is 1.6 tons of water per second being thrown up in the air.
Wow.
It was intense. And you'd stand on the deck of this thing as we're going full tilt with all the monitors.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way I can explain it is a silent, deafening roar. But you could talk right over the top of it.
Weird. Because it's all white noise.
The sound wavelength was low enough that it was really loud and you could feel it. I mean, your chest was thumping as this water is coming out.
Right.
But you could talk right over the top of it. It wasn't...
Wow.
At the level of sound where we talk, it wasn't very loud at all. It was weird. It was bizarre. It was awe-inspiring. It was really cool. It's something I really enjoyed.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah. So those are some of the things coming, folks.
Yeah. We've definitely got lots of stories.
Yeah. I think we're done with the first half of this episode.
Yeah.
Guess what's coming next? You'll figure it out when we do.
True story. Hey, Dad, do you remember the one time you told me about the guy who was real upset about how you parked the fire truck?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this was back, again, early in my career, and I'd just become a driver.
Okay.
And we were still at the old station.
Okay.
And the officer that I was working with at the time worked at Microsoft.
Okay, cool.
And so he would come straight from work.
Right.
And so when we were done with our drilling or whatever we were doing, when we'd get the rig checked out, put it in service, and then do a drill or something like that, usually something short, but we'd do something. And then we'd go down to the grocery store, which was just a couple blocks down the hill from us.
Right.
To get some dinner.
Right.
And this particular parking lot, most parking lots, I wouldn't park in the fire lane because it usually put the truck in the way.
Right. And you have to take the truck anytime you leave, even if on just an errand. Yes.
No. Yeah, we can't. We would either take the truck and the aid car or just the truck.
Right, because you have to be ready.
Yes. And this time we only had 4 people, so we took just the truck.
Right.
So this particular parking lot, though, the fire lane right in front of the store was the width of its own lane. Okay. So I could park there and cars could get around without any trouble.
You were not in the way.
I was not in the way.
And you're right by the door.
Yeah, and we're right there. So why not?
Right.
And so I would park, and this was a routine. Almost every shift we'd do this. Well, apparently we caught the attention of somebody. So being the driver, I was always the last one off the rig, or last one to walk into wherever we were going, because I got to secure the rig when we park. And it takes just a few minutes, but still I got to do it. And so I did that, and I come around, and I'm going to walk around the front of the rig to go into the store. And as I'm coming around the corner, a guy's walking out in front of the rig into the parking lot.
From the store. From
the store. Yeah, he's got a bag of groceries in his hand. And he grumbles something. Loud enough that I could hear that he was grumbling something, but not loud enough to hear what it was. And I'm reasonably certain that was deliberate. He wanted me to know that he was upset.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, don't do it, Randy. Don't do it.
But you're
in uniform. You just got out of a fire truck with the city's name on it. Don't do it.
But you did
But I did it. So, but I was polite. And
always.
I just said,
always.
Sir, is there something I can help you with? And he stops, and now I can see the gears going in his head. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Right. Because he wasn't expecting you to stop.
No. He just was expressing his distaste with us, and then he was going to walk away.
Yep.
But so he stops, and he finally goes, well, you'd think of all people that would know better to park in a fire lane, it would be a firefighter. And his tone of he really just got me,
Oh, such premature satisfaction.
Yes, absolutely. Because now I'm fighting from laughing. I don't want to laugh at the guy. As dumb as that comment was, I wasn't going to laugh at his face.
Can I?
Yeah, he's not standing here. So, I paused and I stopped and I said, but if you think about it, if there was an emergency that required the fire department to show up, what do you think we'd show up in, and where do you think we'd park it? And he got it. He's looking at me like, oh, yeah. And now I can see the gears going, how do I get out of this and save face?
Right. The only vehicles allowed to park there is parked there.
And he's trying really hard, I can tell, just to come up with something to counter that.
Right.
What do you counter? You counter it. He wasn't going to say, well, it's in the way, because it wasn't. And I'm looking at him, and I'm just, politely smiling like I smile at someone who I'm, being nice to. And I'm just standing there, and it seemed like minutes, but I'm sure it was just a few seconds.
Right.
And he finally just kind of shrugs his shoulders and says, well, whatever. And he turns around and walks off. And I just walked, thank you for your concern and have a nice evening. Didn't turn around. And I went in and had a good laugh with the crew in the store.
I want to know how many times throughout his life he's thought of that moment, because you know that he has.
Well, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that he would see us down there regularly and get pissed off that we're parking in the fire lane. For crying out loud, you don't park in a fire lane. No one parks in a fire lane.
I wonder if he's used that as like his own anecdote too. Been like, hey, did you know?
I don't know, man. That's it's walking up something. I said something really stupid once. I mean, suppose people do that, but I don't know.
It's kind of a whole trend for my generation. I was today years old when I learned.
Okay, well, yeah, yeah.
It's a good one though.
Well, I can see the look on his face, the looks on his face. The start of you've pissed me off, and I'm really going to tell you, and then to, oh shit, that makes sense, and then how do I get out of this? And I felt kind of bad. Not bad enough that I didn't go laugh with him with the crew about it. That was the parking lot experience, the parking authority.
Yeah,
if you will.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's one of my shorter stories, but it's one of my favorites. So, but being able to visualize the look on his face helps.
Yeah, I'm together, sure so. You bring it right there.
Yep, parking in the fire lane. Oh my God, that's
something firefighters do.
Yeah. Not often enough, I won't say, but yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So, anyhow.
That's one of the stories you've often told me.
That's one of the stories I've often told you. I think with that, we're going to wrap this episode up.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the things. Share with your friends.
Yep. All that stuff.
All of it.
Okay, folks. We'll see you at the next one.
Bye.